Kevin, you've been on holiday for a bit over a week and a half, 2 weeks. We've
About a
had
week.
a million and one things happen in wrestling since. These are personally my favorite shows to do. The whole let's catch up on everything we've missed episodes,
Yes.
which we do every couple of months whenever we're both preoccupied or there's a scheduling clash or whatever. We have about 15 different topics to go into today. We're going to try and get as much detail as we can on a lot of things. We've got you, the great listeners, demanding we talk about a bunch of different stuff. So we're going to get to it. But first, pal, as we always ask, how you doing?
I'm lovely, pal. So we're going to give AEW credit. Don't you worry. We got to give AEW a lot of credit. It's that time. It's time to give AEW credit. It's coming later on in the podcast. We're going to talk about some of the negatives with AEW first, but we are going to give AEW a lot of credit at the end because All In was about 13 days ago, 12 days ago now as we're recording this. All In was fantastic. We've got All Out coming up tomorrow night. Bash in Berlin happened while I was gone. That was awesome. NXT No Mercy. We got Vince McMahon's documentary being announced. There's so much stuff. Backstage drama in AEW. Backstage drama in WWE. It's gonna be this is a action packed episode of Elite Heat.
It sure is. We've done up a run sheet as though we're writing up and booking a SmackDown. We've got like 10, 12 different segments here. A lot of different things to go into. There's a couple of new segments making their debut, their debut today, pal.
Yes.
Which I think you guys will like. We're trying to keep this a bit fresh, keep it a bit spicy. So keep listening, see what you think of the new segments. I came up with a couple of them. I think they're quite good. So waits to be seen, pal. That being said, I'm just gonna throw the floor to you, Kevin. Everyone and their mother now is aware of this Vince McMahon Netflix documentary series. The last I saw was a 6-part documentary series. They put out a little trailer, a little thing, the classic trailer of one of these things where you have Vince McMahon sits down in a chair. It's like off camera, off screen. He's getting himself ready. He's hyping it up. This is going to be colossal. This is going to be nuts. What comes out in this, I don't know. I'm going to more throw the floor to you here. You're Mr. Wrestling Uncovered. You've watched every one of these wrestling documentaries, Dark Side of the Rings, the WWE, like the Hit Piece documentary, and The Ultimate Warrior, for instance, all these different shoot interviews. I want to ask you, what do you, Kevin, expect from this Vince McMahon documentary series? What do you think?
I expect this to be like The Last Dance, which was Michael Jordan's documentary. And I expect it to be like that in one sense, that we're gonna learn something about an enigma of an individual that we did not know. This is Netflix. This is a big time production. There is going to be something that none of us know. We all think, as wrestling fans, we know the entire story of Vince McMahon. I don't think it's gonna be just everything that we know and what we've heard about Vince. I think there's gonna be something here that's gonna shock people. I was listening to a podcast, The Masked Man Show, on The Ringer. So The Ringer is owned by Bill Simmons. Bill Simmons produced this documentary. Say what you will about him, sports mogul, big Boston fan. Bill Simmons. Is he the right person that you want producing a major production on Vince McMahon? That's the question for another day. So I'm listening to the Masked Man Show, which is on The Ringer. One of the guys on the show had a big hand in producing this documentary, and he was like, "There's stuff in there that will shock you, And one of the other guy watched like an early screening of it, was like, "Damn, I was shocked." So and I kind of had that feeling going into it, because I was just like, "This is Netflix, bro. This is gonna be a huge documentary. There's no way we're gonna be just like, it's gonna be 6 episodes just playing the hits, pal. Vince did this, Vince did that. Yeah, we've read the articles, we know it." So to hear that being assured on this podcast was huge. Man, I think this documentary is gonna take over the world. Like I think this is gonna be like Tiger King, like The Last Dance. Like I said, this is going to take over the world. It's going to be like the Avengers. Like the pop culture is going to be talking about this when it comes out. I mean, this guy, everybody knows WWE. Everybody knows Vince McMahon. He was running this company for 40 plus years, whatever, before he was forced to step down. And it's just like, And ever since he stepped out, it's been allegation after allegation, and eye-popping, head-turning headline after headline. And now Netflix is involved. I mean, bro, this isn't some documentary on like a random channel on like DirecTV's just plethora of channels. This is Netflix, bro. This is gonna be huge. I can't wait. I'm so excited.
The follow-up question I have for you: will you be covering each episode on Wrestling Uncovered?
Absolutely. I don't know if I'll cover each episode, but I'm gonna cover this documentary.
I think you should cover each episode, to be honest, because I mean, the other thing with this now, maybe this information is public knowledge. I'm not aware. Is there anything about how long each episode will be? Is it going to be like 6 1-hour episodes, or like is there any more information on the format?
Nothing on that. No, there's nothing on it. Probably like an hour, I would guess, hour and 15 minutes. Nothing that I saw. Maybe there is something out there, but I haven't seen it. I don't know. I'm not too into that like behind the scenes stuff, man. I just want to see what I want to.
That's the powers is asking generally.
I know, but I want to say this. Hold on, but before you go, I want to change the speed on this for a second. I saw some discourse that was like, oh, Triple H, John Cena, The Rock, all these guys are gonna be like, dancing around the questions and the allegations and stuff. Like, people are really upset about that, and they're like, why aren't we seeing any women in the trailer? Just wait for the show, bro. Like, there's gonna be a woman. My prediction is there's gonna be a woman that nobody's ever heard of, ever. She's gonna come out and she's gonna be like, I'm so and so, and this is what Vince McMahon did to me, and it's gonna be like this crazy story, and everybody's gonna be like, what? Jaws on the floor.
Yeah.
Like, whether it's a wrestler that like from the 80s or somebody that like auditioned in 2003 for like Total Divas or whatever, Diva Search, it's gonna be something crazy like that. And Bret Hart's gonna be honest, you already know. Like, there were some people that were like, oh, WWE and Netflix, they're in bed together. This is gonna be like a sham. They're gonna try to like dance around the Vince stuff and praise it, make him look good. Nah, you can't tell Vince's story without those guys. You can't tell Vince's story without his son-in-law, without The Rock, without Cena. And I want all perspectives. I don't want just the bad. I don't want to watch 6 hours of just daunting allegations. I want to hear some good stuff too. I mean, the guy did give us like he's the reason why we're all here.
Yeah.
He gave us a lot of good memories. Like, it's not all bad.
Look, there's so much to go into with this individual.
Yes.
This is the most storied, out there, like in some say out of pocket, yet inspired in many ways, visionaries that's still alive today. And I mean, entertainment or in sports entertainment, obviously, but entertainment generally. And yeah, like, I tend to agree with you. Will this get like Last Dance levels of coverage? It depends what comes out in the documentary. If the first like 2 or 3 episodes just here's the rise of Vince McMahon, just rehashing what you did on your channel as far as here's what happened in his rise. Cool. He took over the company. Yeah, there was discussions from people in the territories about trying to assassinate him in the 80s and take him out and break Hulk Hogan's leg, all this sort of different business and whatever that we sort of know of to some extent. But full well there's going to be an episode or 2 in there, maybe in the middle, maybe towards the end, where you get 1 or 2 of those sort of people coming out saying some things. Vince McMahon did X. And you go, excuse me? What? And that's going to be like the main thing, the main takeaway from this documentary series. It's going to be startling. This is why there's so much hype around this, because with an individual like a Vince McMahon, who as running the company for 40 years, like this is the WWE. This is the global conglomerate entity, World Wrestling Entertainment, that everyone knows. Everyone calls wrestling WWE. Oh, it's the same thing as everyone calls gridiron, like American football, NFL. Oh, let's go play some NFL. Like, no, it's gridiron, but you call it the same thing with wrestling. It's pro wrestling, but everyone just calls it WWE. That's the conglomerate that Vince McMahon created, and it's Vince. I mean, your channel has God knows how many videos on just different stories and different things alone. Who knows what we're going to find out here? And I tend to agree with you. I don't think this is going to be 6 parts of Netflix and Vince McMahon and WWE in bed together. That's not what this is going to be. If Bill Simmons is involved, there's going to be parts of this which are hit pace, parts of this which are objective, parts of this which are very biased. It's going to be all over the shop, and it's going to be brilliant viewing. This is going to be one of the great documentary series we see, I think. I think it's going to be great. The fact that people have come out, the select few who've had a look, had a watch, seen the early screening and said, wow, like this will shock you. Like, I didn't know this stuff. I don't believe that's just part of marketing. I think that's genuine. So, look, I can't wait. This is going to be monstrous. Kevin's channel is going to be covering most episodes. I might even do a JTE video if something gets like that crazy, if it gets that out of pocket. I might do a documentary series review and review the 10 most shocking allegations and bombshells out of the Vince McMahon Netflix documentary. Because as you say, this is Netflix. Like this isn't Joe Blow's YouTube channel. Someone sitting in his man cave for 12 hours a day making wrestling videos in the summertime. This is Netflix, Kevin. This is effing Netflix. So, look, I can't wait. It's gonna be brilliant.
Yeah, it's effing Netflix, bro. All right, so shall we go to the next segment?
Yes, we should, pal. So this is one of these segments which I was thinking to myself, how can we turn up the dial on Elite Heat? What sort of segment we can do? And I've called this segment, this is what we're going to coin it, Turn Up the Heat. Because obviously we're Elite Heat. We've got, in many cases, fairly strong opinions on things. We don't try and just shy away and toe the company line or toe the popular opinion in many regards. I want to turn up the heat. I want to kick this off. The topic for today is Ricochet's first month in AEW. Now, objectively speaking, his all-in debut, whatever, was quite good. Good reaction, good moment. What he was involved in was decent television and not decent PLE content, decent pay-per-view. But it's the stuff since, which I'm going to turn up the heat on. I'm turning up the heat on Ricochet because I got the clip sent to me and like the segment thing where he does the roly-poly spot outside the ring and then he looks up at the camera and he does like a couple of crotch chops. I'm thinking to myself, okay, hold on, Rick. Firstly, your partner's in AEW. No, sorry, your partner's in WWE. Your partner's Samantha Owen, the ring announcer for World Wrestling Entertainment. She's like one of the most important figures in WWE as far as what we see and hear and what we consume week to week. She's a big standing in that company. You were supposedly on decent terms with WWE. It wasn't a brutal axing. It wasn't like you just got abruptly cut off and cut short. You had a decent WWE career, all things considered, as we discussed in our last few shows. And then you go to AEW, and within, a good all-in debut, within a week or two, he's on Collision, he's on Dynamite, doing roly-poly flip-flop acrobatics, crotch chopping, when Paul Levesque was the one who gave him a career for the last couple of years. Excuse me? So I'm turning up the heat on Ricochet, Kevin. I think it's ridiculous. I'll pass to you in a second for your general thoughts on his AEW first few weeks. But I'm looking at that going, this is just the same thing we've seen that many times from AEW, ex-WWE, but now AEW wrestlers. You do something to either diss or discredit or try and make fun of or mock the place that gave you employment for, in Ricochet's case, 4, 6, 8 years? Over half a decade. They give him a career and he's crotch chopping and then he's going back and forth with people on Twitter of 20 followers. And I'm turning up the heat, Kevin. I can't stand it. What do you think?
Yeah, so I watched his AEW debut at All In, and I thought it was a pretty good moment. Now that match concept, I don't even know what it was called. I can't remember. You remember the match that he debuted in? What was it, like the
casino something or other? It's escape. I know the one you mean. I watched it, but it's escape.
Yeah, it's a match type when there's a bunch of different wrestlers run in. What is it? So Rollins used to do a bunch of them in 2019 and 18. You have you have one match and then somebody wins and then someone else comes out.
Matches.
Gauntlet. Yeah, it was like a gauntlet match, but as soon as one pinfall got scored, that was the end of the match.
Gauntlet match, pal.
Yeah, I hear Gauntlet. I'm thinking, okay, we're gonna get a bunch of different matches following each other, but whatever. That was interesting. I'm not gonna talk about that.
Neither here nor there, but nonetheless, back to Ricochet.
So Ricochet makes his debut, and I'm like, oh, okay. Coming in as a big star, debuting in front of 46,000 people at Wembley Stadium. Big deal. Ricochet, big star. Here we go. This guy's perfect for AEW, as we mentioned. We're good on him getting a big check from Tony Khan. God bless him. And then, he has this big stare down. I believe it was with Okada, I want to say. If my memory serves me correctly. He's staring down with Okada. 46,000 going crazy. Then the next day, I go on X, formerly known as Twitter. Scrolling through my timeline, propaganda here from U.S. politics, NBA tweets, NBA memes, porn, and then boom, right under there, we got some AEW content. I see Ricochet tweeting, and I see Ricochet is replying to people. And I'm like, okay, Ricochet is replying to somebody with like 40 followers. Like somebody tweeted, oh, I love Ricochet, but I just don't watch AEW. Something like
and on that, something like that is a perfectly fine tweet. That's not offensive. That's not like nasty. Some of the things we've discussed on our show, where you're calling Triple H like global dictators who killed millions of people, and comparing Triple H and Nick Khan and Vince and all these things. Some of the things you say on Twitter, as you say, are horrible. That's a regular tweet. Like that's something any of us would tweet. That's fine. Anyway,
yeah, right. So they're like, oh, I like AEW, but I don't like AEW. I mean, I like Ricochet, but I don't like AEW, so I'm not gonna watch like Dynamite, whatever. And Ricochet is like, what? If you like me so much, why won't you watch Dynamite? And I'm thinking, okay, this is somebody like pretending to be Ricochet. Like this is one of those meme accounts. And I was like, oh, it's the real Ricochet with like 1 million followers out here. Reply to somebody asking them why they don't watch Dynamite. And then the person's like, oh, I'll just watch your clips and highlights. And he's like, but why not watch the show if you love me so much? And I'm like, is this for real? Like, is this a joke? Like, are you kidding me, bro? Are you for real right now? Like, that's like if you sell candy bars, right, for a living. You sell candy bars, and somebody's like, I like Crunch bars, and you sell Kit Kats, and you go up to them, you're like, why don't you like Kit Kats? And they're like, I don't know, I just don't like the way they taste. And then you get like, what does it matter? One person doesn't watch Dynamite. Like, why are you worried about this one random person on Twitter not watching Dynamite? Focus on your promo skills and your charisma and draw more viewers. So like. So why are you focused on this one? Like, why are you out there replying to people? And then somebody was like, oh, this is the beauty of Tony Khan and AEW. The wrestlers can express themselves on social media. And then somebody else was like, this is why WWE doesn't like has regulations on what their talent can do and say on social media.
Yeah.
Like, this is exactly why those regulations exist. It's embarrassing. And it's like, I know you said we're going to give AEW credit, but you know, talking negative.
We'll get to that. There's plenty of praise. We'll get to that, but carry on.
Yeah, this is one of those moments where I'm just thinking, like, this is why AEW is in the position that it's in. This is why they're selling 2,000 tickets to like 10,000 seat basketball arenas across the United States. Like, this is why they're selling 4,000 seats for Grand Slam when they did like 13,000 on average or whatever, 11,000 on average since they started that show. So I want to go on a side tangent too, just for a moment, if I can. We mentioned Okada, and I just want to talk about him for like 30 seconds. I'm thinking about Okada, right? The big bad face of New Japan. And now he's a goofy heel on a faction that's been dead for the last like 3 years. In the Elite, like they've been dead. They're a dead faction. Kenny Omega's washed. Nobody gives a damn about the Young Bucks anymore. Hangman Page is not really a part of the faction. I know some people get upset by that, but the Elite is a dead faction. They were hot at one point. I loved the Elite in 2017, 18, 19. They're dead. It's over. Okada's been relegated to being that guy. Just a comedic act. Walking around with Matt and Nick Jackson, dancing with Mercedes Moné in the back. This is Okada. This is the guy that was one of the top 4 wrestlers in the world throughout the 2010s. And going into 2020, like this guy was perennially a top 5 wrestler in the world. He was the face of New Japan. Put on the best matches. And I'm watching him dance with Mercedes Moné. Why is that guy not a main eventer? I get it. You can't have spots for everyone. I understand. Not everyone can be a main eventer. But Okada, that guy should be a main eventer. Why are we not getting Okada versus MJF? Why are we not getting Okada versus Will Ospreay? Why did we not get Okada versus Swerve for the AEW World Championship? Why is this guy regulated to a comedy act? I know people are going to come at me and say, oh, but Okada, he's so funny. He pulls it off well. Yes, he does. He does pull it off well. This is like Stone Cold Steve Austin in 2001 with the guitar singing Kumbaya with Kurt Angle. It's not funny. like, yeah, it's funny because it's ridiculous, like from a ridiculous standpoint, like, oh, this is Stone Cold Steve Austin, big badass, but like, this is Okada, bro. Like,
Yeah, I go. Even then, with Steve Austin, you'd seen him, drinking the beers, and he was, he was stunning his boss, and he was running down during a ministry ceremony with Stephanie McMahon as they were had her on a cross, and Austin was beating up the Undertaker and throwing Paul Bearer and all this. That was awesome. This is Okada. Like, Okada's thing is, he's the Rainmaker, pal. He's like one of the greatest New Japan wrestlers ever. He main evented X amount of Wrestle Kingdoms, had that many 7-star matches. He's a great wrestler. He's a legend of Japan. And his stuff on North American TV now, he's a part of the Elite Power, which the Dead Faction thing's strong, I must say. Like, I don't feel that they're a dead faction. I'll fly the flag to some extent. I accept the criticism of the Young Bucks. I think they're tool bags. I think, like, on screen, they're just not entertaining. And, like, when they come on, I'm like, what am I looking at? I give Jack Perry credit because at least I feel something when he's on screen.
we'll get to him.
We'll get to him later. We'll get to that. But, like, when it comes to that, like, that stable, the only one I feel anything for is Jack Perry. So I guess that counts as something. But circling this all back to Ricochet, pal, I mean, the social media training, it's almost like an AEW starter pack. You sign your deal with Tony Khan for an inflated amount of money. You get your paycheck. Then you get the social media training from Adam Copeland and Tony Khan. Hey, if you have someone with 17 followers say, I like you, but I'm not the biggest fan of AEW, I'm probably not going to watch your stuff outside of some clips. Go after them on Twitter. Go after them on X. Dedicate 30 minutes to fighting with them on X for no reason. Take shots in promos and or do some inadvertent crotch chops at the boss of WWE. I don't know, Kevin.
Yeah.
The summary of this segment, turning up the heat on Ricochet. You got to be better. No more of this, please. No more arguing with people with 17 or 42 followers on X with no profile picture. Turn up the heat. You got to be better.
Absolutely. All right. So now next up, we're going to talk Mercedes Moné and Britt Baker. So
before you go, so I just want to say, you raised this as a topic. You were like, Jimmy, we need to discuss this specifically. I was like, okay. So I know you have a strong stance, which we'll get to in a moment. All I'll say personally, we've made our thoughts very well known on Mercedes, particularly in the last couple of sort of late take, sort of like general what's happening in wrestling podcasts we've done. I'm just like, I'm watching it now going, look, I see it for what it is with Mercedes. She's there for literally to get a paycheck. She's just there to feel like she's the top star and she's getting a paycheck. Is she moving the needle? No. That's all I'll say for now. That being said, pal, Mercedes, Britt Baker, over to you.
Yeah, so they had this match that was, third from last or whatever. It was at the top of the card. It was for the TBS championship, and this was supposed to be this big, like, ripping, just engulfing match, like this larger-than-life, big-time women's match.
The biggest women's match in AEW's history.
Yes.
That's what this was. The star power, the stage, everything. This is supposed to be the biggest women's match in the history of All Elite Wrestling.
Yeah, exactly. And this match was awful. It was awful. It was so bad. It was the worst match on the card, I think, at All In.
Wow. You got that hard?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I think it was the worst match on the card. You could tell these two don't like each other for real. You could tell Britt Baker was like not into it. She was checked out. It was literally like two alter ego, like two huge egos, not alter egos, two huge egos just like trying to get their stuff in. Like Meltzer gave this match like 2.25 stars or whatever. And he gave our girl Toni Storm and who's Mariah May
Mariah May,
yeah Toni Storm and Mariah May, he gave them like 1.25 stars. Like, no, this match was to me the worst match on the show. Like and I'm listening to like a bunch of different like podcasts and YouTube reviews, just like too much really to like name any specifics, and just reading Twitter. I'm really trying to get a feel for this, right? Get a feel for like, take a temperature. Like, is it just Eric Bischoff and like all these other old heads freaking out about how bad Mercedes Moné is? Like, is she really that bad? And I see people making excuses like, oh, this match had to follow MJF and Ospreay in Wembley. That's why it was so dead. Or, oh, Mercedes carried Britt Baker. Britt Baker's terrible in the ring, which, hey, Britt Baker, she's like, this is an outdated, irrelevant baseball reference. She's like Barry Bonds in the playoffs, bro. She doesn't show up in big moments. You put Britt Baker in a big match, it hasn't been good. We've seen it time and time again since the beginning of AEW. She's all hype, very little substance. But to say that Mercedes Moné was carrying her, I haven't watched one AEW match that featured Mercedes Moné. She's only wrestled like, what, 4 times? In not one of those matches have I been like, wow, Mercedes Moné is like the best women's wrestler in the world. I don't know what it is. Like, I genuinely felt like I was watching a different show than the rest of these people. Like, where is this star power? Nobody's cheering. You have 46,000 people. Nobody's cheering for Mercedes Moné. Okay, she went on after Ospreay and MJF. Okay. Yeah. But we've seen her come out to crickets before on Dynamite. She cuts promos, they don't click. It's like these excuses that are made for her. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's because she's like a nice looking girl or because she's Sasha Banks from WWE. I don't know what it is, but I'm just puzzled. Like what people see in both of them, really. And then Mercedes, like I hear things like, oh, she's a star. She's elevated AEW's women's division, which I mean, yeah, you could say. But like when I think of a star and I think of elevating a division, I think of like, you know, being a draw. But that match was so bad with Britt Baker that they scrubbed it from the internet. You can't find clips of it. You can't find promos from the build-up. And you can't find anything of Mercedes. You can't find any segments of her. They've all, damn near all of her segments besides her debut and a couple promos been scraped from the internet. That's not a star. If you got to scrape all her content from the internet. And I'm sure, you know, if I saw her, if I ever ran into her on the street, she probably wouldn't like me if she heard this. But I'm just calling it like I see it, bro.
All I'll say on that, the Mercedes stuff feels manufactured.
Yes.
It feels like you're supposed to like her. You're supposed to feel like she's the big savior of the AEW women's division. You're supposed to feel like she's a big star. You're supposed to feel like she's a big draw. But then, I mean, for you, yeah, you watch All In. I mean, I watched it. My view was that it was the second worst match of the night. I thought that the Hook and Jericho match was terrible. I'm watching Hook and Jericho. There's cricket balls in the ring. Hook's hitting cricket balls, missing Jericho. Like,
I agree with you. I have to agree. I went a little hard. I have to agree. Jericho and Hook was worse. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm watching. I get it. They're in England. England play cricket, and not as well as Australia, might I say, but nonetheless. And it's just like terrible. Anyway, we'll get to Jericho. Whatever, more on that later. But with Mercedes, yeah, it just feels like you should be more into it. This match, as you say, it felt like a clash of big egos where there's both of them you're supposed to either love or think are really good. There's supposed to be this unstoppable force, immovable object women's match, Clash of Titans. It couldn't end quick enough. Which is, it's an indictment upon the two women involved because they should be your flag bearers of AEW women's wrestling. When AEW, like the women's division came to be 5-6 years ago, and it was, Riho, it was Hikaru Shida, it was Nyla Rose. Britt Baker was like the savior almost. Like, hey, Britt Baker's the English-speaking superstar who has an identifiable character, who can at least cut a promo and has something about her. She can be the flag bearer of this division. She can lead the way. And yeah, I mean, it just didn't work. And then Mercedes Moné's now here, and like, as I said, you're supposed to feel like she's the savior, but she's just not. Like, anyone can watch that match, and the crowd's limp. The crowd's like, And then, you watch podcasts, listen to interviews. Oh, there was a really good match to follow up the MJF and Ospreay match. These two women went out there and went bell to bell, 17 minutes, had a great women's title match. They clicked in the ring. The chemistry was good between the two. Mercedes' ring work was crisp. It looked good. She's really hitting her stride in AEW. The women's division's rolling. and people like us are sat here going, it's amazing you think that. Opinions like noses, everyone has one mostly, but there's a disconnect. So yeah, I feel disconnected from that. This to me felt like how I felt with Rhea Ripley and Charlotte Flair in the WrestleMania 39 match. That one was obviously a better match, but everyone was saying that was 5 stars, best women's match we've ever seen. I saw people say that.
Me too.
And I was like, good match, yes. Best match I've ever seen. The first 12 minutes, nothing happened. It was rest holds. What are we doing? Why? And it's similar here, but the match wasn't as good. I don't know. Look, I think by the end of this year, I mean, we feel this way already. People who are not in the loop, but people who feel a similar way to us already feel this way. I think more people are going to come around, but the Mercedes thing just hasn't worked. How long this is going to go on with her as the star of the AEW Women's Division, I don't know. Because to me, and I'll go this far, this doesn't feel much different to Saraya. When Saraya came in, big women's star from WWE, the savior of the division, the name, like stuff to give, and you just don't feel anything. I don't know what it is. You don't feel. I don't know.
There it is, pal. All right, so another new segment. You want to introduce this one?
Yes. So this one, pal, obviously we're Elite Heat. I figure I listen to lots of sports media, sports podcasts. I think this will be a fun one. I call this hot and cold. We're going to double with the name. Obviously, Elite Heat, hot, get it, haha. But yeah, one thing you're hot on, one thing you're cold on. So one thing you're really like, you're into, whether it's a wrestler, a storyline, an angle, someone you think should be pushed, a pay-per-view or a Raw, an angle you like, something you're hot on. Then something you're cold on, something you're really not into, something that you're just like, no, thank you, get it away from me, no thanks, bam, bam. That's what this is going to be. So for me, I'm starting off my hot for this segment. Jon Moxley, I'm honestly enjoying quite a bit now. I think this like skinhead, bald Moxley, he has aura in AEW. Jon Moxley, when I look at the AEW roster and I look at who has aura, who is like the most aura in that company, Jon Moxley to me has some of the most aura. He has that 12th grader, too cool for school. I've seen it all. I've done it all. I'm here. Don't F with me aura. And I like that. I think in AEW especially, there's a lot of people who are either trying to still prove themselves or think they're bigger than they are. We talked about Mercedes just then, but there's so many. We can do a big list in another episode, but so many wrestlers who are just sort of almost playing a role of something they're not, or they're trying to be something they're not. Moxley's just him. So to me, yeah, my hot, Jon Moxley, I like what they're doing. He's mentioning Darby Allin. He has that little backstage thing. He looks at Jack Perry. He's like, yeah, nice kid, whatever. And he goes about his business. I'm a fan of Moxley. I like the new look. I like what he's about. So yeah, Jon Moxley's my hot. Kevin, my cold. Honestly, I know you said this off recording.
God.
We don't want to become just a Chris Jericho podcast. I understand that. The
podcast of Jericho, pal.
Yeah, the podcast of Jericho, the vortex of Jericho.
The learning tree.
The learning tree. Kevin, in the last week and a half, we've been subjected to, as wrestling fans, a match at All In, which happened for no reason, an FTW title match, where Chris Jericho gets out a thing of cricket balls, pours them in the ring, and he got Hook, who has like one eye, is like hitting cricket balls at Jericho, missing, and Jericho's trying to stand there selling it. He's like, ah! He's like a 55-year-old shirtless man, done it all in wrestling. Retire, please. So there's that match. That was the worst match at All In. And then I'm watching Dynamite, and I'm watching Chris Jericho backstage with the Jericho Appreciation Society with Big Cass standing there. I still call him Big Cass. I don't care. I'm not calling him Big Bill, whatever they want us to call him. Big Cass and the other guy, whose name escapes me, they're standing backstage, and Jericho is just going on and on about the $7,000 white blazer from 3 years ago or 4 years ago, which it was 4 years ago, right? It was 2020, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
It was deep in the heart of the global pandemic, Kevin. We were locked inside watching WWE inside the Performance Center.
Isn't that the same show Matt Hardy got a concussion on live on
I'll
pay-per-view?
I'll get to that. We're sat inside in the heart of a global pandemic. There's fear on the news. There's freakouts. There's videos coming out of China of people collapsing in the street. We're sat in our homes watching Chris Jericho feuding with Orange Cassidy, and Orange Cassidy poured orange juice on Jericho's blazer. And now 4 years ago, this is happening again. This is like on the main storylines on Dynamite. Why? Who's asking for this? No one. So Chris Jericho is my cold for this week, Kevin. And then Jericho, he does his big promo. Oh my God, the $7,000 blazer orange. You're going to have to pay up that money on Collision. And then Orange Cassidy walks over and confronts Jericho's lackey and is like, I'm going to give Chris Jericho back the money if I blah, blah, blah. And Jericho's standing there like making angry faces. Kevin, this is one of the worst things in wrestling all year. This is one of the dumbest, most no one asked for moment. Kevin, I'm going to say this now before I pass to you if you're hot and cold. Clown of the Year in the Elite Heat Awards, the Young Bucks Award for Clown of the Year. Is Chris Jericho going to win the award this year? Is he going to take the mantle from the Young Bucks?
I think he will. Yeah.
How is that possible? How can you be so bad that you take the mantle from the Young Bucks? Go on.
Can I just interject on this? So, I was really hyped after All In. I was like, oh my God, Bryan Danielson, retirement, winning the world championship. What's going to happen? I got to watch Dynamite. I watched Dynamite. Honestly, it was a really good show. I thoroughly enjoyed that Dynamite post All In. Top to bottom.
Agree. Just want to say, agree.
Yeah. So I'm watching this. I got my girl sitting next to me on the couch. And I'm like, like you said, like 30 minutes into the show, 27 minutes into the show with this Jericho segment. All of a sudden, you're seeing good wrestling. It's Ishii or whatever, And then we cut to the back. I see Jericho in tights. Like, this is 55-year-old Jericho in tights with his flab everywhere. And I don't think I've ever been more embarrassed as a wrestling fan than in that moment. Like when you're sitting there with your significant other. And, I could be watching anything on Netflix right now. I could be watching a multitude of content, pal. I could be watching a romantic movie, a comedy movie. I could be binge watching a thriller television series. I could be binge watching documentaries. I could be binge watching The Last Dance, watching Michael Jordan take everything personal. But what I decided to do on my Wednesday night before I get ready to take a flight to Colombia at 5 a.m, what I decided to do on Wednesday night is watch AEW Dynamite. I give AEW Dynamite my time. And this is what I'm rewarded with. 55-year-old Jericho in tights with his flab out. Like, talking about a freaking blazer. Wow. Okay. I digress.
Anyway,
go ahead. I just had to mention that.
Yeah, no. You bang on. All I'll say, for all the good AEW is doing right now, because there's actually some genuine, which we're going to get to in the second half of this show. We don't need the Heroes of Wrestling segment each week with Chris Jericho.
No.
We don't need these segments of him naked backstage talking about a blazer from 4 years ago. They got some orange juice.
Oh my God.
This is literally Heroes of Wrestling from 1999 or whenever they did Heroes of Wrestling. The all-time bad, worst event ever. That's what this is. This is someone who is just way past it, hanging on. But nonetheless, pal, I'll pass to you. What are you hot on? What are you cold on?
All right, so right now I'm hot on just like the Liv Morgan, Dominic Mysterio, Rhea Ripley angle, and Damian Priest too. But specifically, I'm hot on Damian Priest right now. I think Damian Priest, he became a huge babyface on the internet after his interview with Chris Van Vliet came out. Did you see that clip that went viral where he was like, Vince McMahon stopped me from being in Black Panther? I mean, he didn't say that specifically, but everybody knew what he was talking about when he said that he was blocked from joining the cast of Black Panther. So instantly he becomes a huge babyface on the internet. Everybody's like, screw Vince, F him. He didn't let Damian Priest film a movie, but he was in the locker room doing God knows what with women, all this stuff. And yeah, Damian Priest, huge babyface on the internet and in real life. Damian Priest, like how you feel about Moxley is how I feel about him. I watch him make his entrance now. Like, this guy has aura. He's a made guy now. Like I think it's solidified now. He's going to be an upper mid-card guy until he's done wrestling. I know he's like 42 or whatever. However long he's got left, he's going to be an upper mid-card guy. He's gonna be like a Kevin Owens, like an LA Knight, a guy you want to put him in the main event. He could win the world title if you have no other options. He could win the Intercontinental title. He could win a tag team title. Anything he does is gonna be good quality television. And his entrance is phenomenal. Like, it's Undertaker-esque. The presentation, the production that he gets it's really good. And I've always been kind of high in the guy since he was like at ROH and all that. His story is fantastic. His come up and his rise to fame. So I'm super hot on Damian Priest. Now, one thing that I'm cold on, I'm having a hard time here. I'm having a hard time like finding something that we're not going to talk about, because we're going to talk about some stuff that you and I are kind of cold on. So I'm trying to think of something unique. And I'm
something light, pal. Something light. It's okay. I spent my cold section in this segment yelling about Chris Jericho and the Heroes of Wrestling Society. What do you reckon?
I guess I'll say there's something light. I'll say like Solo Sikoa and Cody rehashing their feud. I'm a little cold on that. I'm not gonna start yelling and like, oh my god, Cody's buried. This is the end of Cody. He should have never been world champion. None of that stuff. I'm just kind of curious, like why are we going back to this? Like, I thought it was done when we had the bromance with Cody and Kevin Owens, and now Solo's like, I want to fight you, Cody. Yeah. And we haven't seen Roman. Like, we saw Roman once on SmackDown. I assume he will probably be back for the debut on USA for SmackDown. You would hope. I don't know. I digress. Something light, nothing crazy. Pal, are you ready for the next segment?
I sure am, pal. I need to, pal, cut the recording for a second. I gotta go get my computer charger. But this is good stuff so far. I'll be 2 seconds. Okay?
Very good. Yep.
Yeah, 1 second.
Good thing.
I find my computer dying mid-recording, pal.
All good. I'm leaving it rolling. I'll just edit this out like I usually do.
Already got like 3 legitimately really good segments for YouTube already. This is great. All right.
All right, pal.
3, 2, 1. All right, Kevin. So I'm just catching my breath after that Jericho rant. Let's move into something. Let's start to get the positive steam train rolling for the second half and the back end of this late hate recording. I want to discuss Gunther. Now, whether in your eyes this is a positive topic or not, waits to be seen. We'll get your opinion. But I want to discuss his title run, because this is one of these points of contention which a year ago we knew Paul Levesque would give him the world championship. We were all fully cognizant of that. They've just done Bash in Berlin. We've just seen Gunther successfully defend against Randall J. Orton, pal, in the big main event of the show. I enjoyed the match. I think Randy Orton at these PLEs, he's a main like PLE act you can put all over the world as a big star. But really, this is about Gunther. He's now feuding with Sami Zayn. Look, I'll just ask you, pal. What's your thoughts? What do you reckon?
So with Gunther, yeah, I enjoyed the PLE match at Bash in Berlin with Randy Orton. I thought it was really good. You got Randy Orton, who's just like, he's just hit icon status now in 2024. Like, that guy is Teflon. He's becoming a bigger star by the day. He's aging like fine wine, He's one of those guys that can do no wrong. And him and Gunther, they work well together. I thought it was pretty fun. Like, Orton's like, like telling him, hey, sing my song, bro. Come on, it's your turn, or whatever, do the RKO chant, whatever it was that he did. The match was brutal, as you come to expect with Gunther matches. I do have genuine long-term questions about Gunther, which we don't need to discuss right now. Like, I'm wondering, with like the way that Gunther anticlimactically lost the Intercontinental Championship, I'm wondering if it's going to be the same with his World Heavyweight title, where we're just going to kind of forget about him. And like, whoever wins, it's not going to feel like a big deal, But so, not enough about that. They have time. They have time to build him up as a champion, as somebody you want to see lose. There's time for that to come. They did a terrible job with Intercontinental Champion, in my opinion. But I digress. We're back with Gunther and Sami Zayn. That was a follow up for Raw post Bash in Berlin. You know, CM Punk calls out Gunther, gets attacked by McIntyre. Then Gunther comes out, is like, that bum is too old. F him, bro. Then Sami Zayn comes out, it's like, you know, I'm the only person that's beaten you, bro. And so here we are. We get a little face off. Gunther's like, you're just a indie clown, not a real wrestler. You can't do what I do. You can't lace my boots, bro. And just like, you're a waste of time. It's like laughing. Like, you gotta be kidding me. Like with Sami Zayn's music, which I thought was funny. Gunther was like, you gotta be kidding me. This effing guy, like, is coming out here. And I saw people on the internet, they were like, or Val Venus in particular. Val Venus in particular tweets this and was like, these two guys would have been holding my bags in the Attitude Era. And you know,
that is just provocative if ever I heard it. That is, wow. Okay.
Yeah. And you know, a lot of people already hate Val Venus for like political reasons, you know, because of the affiliation, the political party affiliations and all that stuff, you know, the nonsense that we see on Twitter nowadays. So a lot of people already hate Val Venus for several reasons. He says controversial things. He just, boom, throws a match on the fire, or throws a match in the gasoline, whatever, and boom, blows up wrestling Twitter. You know, you've got the typical like people that are stuck in like the Attitude Era. Those fans that are like, oh, Attitude Era was the peak of wrestling. I don't care about anything else. Everything else sucks. Those people are like, yeah, bro. In 1998, you know, Gunther and Sami Zayn would have got jumped in backstage, bro. You know, Shawn Michaels would have beat him up. You know, JBL would have beat them up, like that kind of thing. Whatever, you know. Just that kind of stuff. You know, these guys aren't world champion material. Look at the ratings. You know, those things.
Yeah.
I just thought that was hilarious, and I was just like, why, like, and why is this getting so much attention? You know, like, why give this so much attention? Why does this start a conversation? Go ahead.
I think that it gets conversation because there's a bigger discussion, which, I mean, this is a whole podcast in itself, but it's, I guess, just the people who comprise the wrestling fan base and like the different ideas and perspectives. As you say, they're that big portion of people. Ratings suck, WWE bad, AEW bad, indie trash, Attitude Era better, Golden Era better, today sucks, wrestling bad. They still watch like every show anyway. But there's that, and that's a fairly big, like, I guess you can call it like the hate watching portion, I guess, just to really blanket the term. Because I think the word smart, anti-smart, like, they're such a stupid term. I think you're more like you have your hate watchers, then your people who are just like your more neutral, casual viewers. Then you have your more like your diehard fans who just love everything anyway. And then for us, we're more like your neutral viewers who watch it. And as you say, you're watching Dynamite with your girlfriend before you're going to have to leave and go on the flight. And then you're like, this is good. This is decent. Oh, yeah, this wrestler's, that's all right. Oh, God, Jericho, change it. No. Like, that's how we approach it. And so for you and like for us, we're watching Gunther and Sami Zayn. It's fine. Pretty good. I mean, the match will be quite good. But yeah, we have valid concerns about, if and when Gunther loses the title for the world title, is it going to feel the same way? Because if you're going to have a guy like Gunther hold the title for what will be minimum 6 months, probably minimum 9 months, potentially a year, who knows how long he's going to hold it, the moment needs to feel huge when he loses. It needs to feel like Roman Reigns when he lost at WrestleMania 40 to Cody. It needs to feel like that. It can't feel like when Sammy just beat him at WrestleMania 40 the IC title. And it's like, oh yeah, next, what's the next match? Like, that's how it felt at WrestleMania. So, yeah, that's the real concern with Gunther. Is it bad? Could Gunther not carry Val Venus's bags? I mean, give me a break. With respect to, I get it. Obviously, Gunther wrestled indie matches. I get it. He's 6'3", whatever he is, whatever his build height is. He's like 6'2", 6'3". He's in decent shape now. His chops nearly kill people and would break rib cages. Like, come on. He'd be more than fine in the Attitude Era. It's the same thing as like LeBron James, the physicality of the 90s. Like, give me a break. He's more physical and tough than most of the guys from then. But nonetheless, yeah, that's Gunther, pal. He's feuding with Sami Zayn. Going to be a great match, pal. Waits to be seen.
Absolutely. All right, pal. So next up, we're going to talk a little CM Punk and Drew McIntyre.
Are we, pal? Or first, are we going to do a little quick discussion? This isn't a big 30-minute conversation, I don't think, unless you're obsessed with Joe Tessitore, pal. Joe Tessitore, and you want to discuss his commentary for an hour. But I want a quick general thoughts. Raw has a new head announcer. Obviously, this isn't like the most exciting story. It's a commentator, I get it, but this is the lead voice you hear for 3 hours watching Raw. It's a pretty big deal. I also want to ask you your general thoughts on this guy as a commentator. Is he great? Is he okay? Is he as bad as whatever Adnan Vink or Adnan Verk, whatever his name was, the one who did it for a little bit a while ago? Where are you at on this guy? Thoughts?
I thought he was pretty good. Like, I thought he was above average. And he does have a unique delivery that kind of, I was like, okay, this guy sounds unlike anyone that I've really heard. You know, I didn't think like, oh, he's a parody of this guy or a parody of that guy. I wasn't, I didn't get those thoughts, those feelings. Maybe I saw some people saying like he tries to be like a more monotone, more Ronaldo. He had one show. Like, we can't really put him in a box, Yeah, like I thought he was fine. I saw people saying like, oh, 9 out of 10, best commentator ever. Like, bro, he doesn't even know the names of moves yet. Like, he barely like named the moves. Like, slow down. He's not a 9 out of 10. He was solid. His voice was, I would say, fairly refreshing. I can't listen to Michael Cole. Like, I couldn't do it. Twice a week.
3 times in his PLAs.
Yeah, as great as Michael Cole is, and he's very good. I want something new. And Pat McAfee, his style is not really for me. Like, I don't think Pat McAfee is all that entertaining. Like, I think the stuff he does when he jumps on top of the commentary table and is dancing to Nakamura's theme song, like, that's funny and entertaining. But his commentary style to me is not that good. I'm not a huge fan of his. And Wade Barrett too. Even Wade Barrett is like he's okay. He's not bad. But it's something about the British accent. Like, listening to that for like 3 hours is like, it's a little tiring,
Pal, and I think I'll say on this because we'll move on. Because honestly, it's not like the most thrilling topic, but generally with commentary, it's the same as like YouTubers versus like Twitch streamers. If you're going to be doing content live for 2, 3, 4, 5 hours, it needs to be either a voice or a personality that's sort of easy to listen to, and it has its ebbs and troughs. You have your big moments, like something big happens, on screen. McIntyre and Punk have a vicious brawl, or Dom's having a celebration with Liv Morgan on screen, pal, or something's going on, and then like your commentary can really climax, and then it can, do that sort of thing. Like, YouTube is a bit more like Pat McAfee. I consider him almost like a YouTube commentator. Like, Pat McAfee is like, he's the hype, he's the sizzle, he can really enhance moments. But it's like a 2-3 hour show. He's like, I get what you're saying. But yeah, when it comes to this new guy, Tessitore, pal, Joe Tessitore, I think he's decent. I mean, yeah, the proof being the pudding. He's better already than Adnan Burke, or like the previous couple that had like Dio Madden, or like some of these people they've tried in these roles. I like him more than Tom Phillips already. A guy like that.
Yeah.
It's a really tricky balance with wrestling commentary, because you've got, obviously, everyone talks about Jim Ross, everyone talks about Michael Cole's like the greats of the wrestling commentary art. Everyone, like New Age, loves Mauro Ranallo, but Mauro's style is hard to listen to, I think. Not everything is so thrilling, so intense. Like, Mauro is a combat sports commentator. His style is made for a 5-10 minute UFC octagon, people trying to kill each other.
Boxing,
that's what Mauro's commentary is made for that. So when you're watching a 3 hour Raw, watching, like the women's tag title match, and it's like it's the middle of the second hour of Raw on a Monday night in early September 2024, and you're watching Isla Dawn hit a move on Io Sky, and you've got someone screaming as though Brock Lesnar's taking out Cain Velasquez in the octagon. It's a bit unnecessary, but yeah, Joe Tessitore, he's okay. We'll see how he goes. Hopefully, wishing him the best. Wrestling needs more variety commentators. We don't just need Michael Cole on every show. We need variety. So, yeah,
absolutely.
Good luck to Joe Tessitore. That being said, don't care to talk about it anymore, pal. Drew McIntyre, CM Punk, the most gripping storyline, the most personal storyline of 2024, and some would say modern times outside of the bloodline. Kevin, it's been a few weeks since we've last spoken. There's been plenty of developments. Talk to us.
Well, I'll ask you a question. Did the strap match help elevate this feud, or do you feel kind of like more the same, or that it's lost its luster?
This storyline with Drew McIntyre and CM Punk is in not a holding phase, but it's not the months and months of, oh my God, when are they going to fight? When are they going to fight? Like the real, months and months of build up. It's so personal. It's so hated. Punk screwing McIntyre. Oh my God, oh my God. There was a lot of like buzz, and rightfully so and justifiably so, when that was happening for that. And then they had their first match at SummerSlam. Good match. Do what I need to do. Now we're waiting for that final, that third, that trilogy match, that 30-minute bloody Hell in a Cell match at Bad Blood or whatever they're going to do exactly. We're sort of waiting for that. So at the moment, it's a bit of like, okay, let's just get through to it. That's how I'm feeling, at least. Maybe you're feeling differently. But the strap match itself, once again, this is one of those things. It was a good match. It achieved its purpose. Punk got his win back. But it was the second match. And I mean that in the sense of, it wasn't the first one where you're desperate to see them fight. It wasn't the third match to settle all scores and ended for all. It was just a fine second match. That's what I thought, at least. Punk's bracelet, pal, with Larry and AJ's name on it, and it got ripped by McIntyre, and McIntyre's ripping his shirt off on his, with his Zoa pancake body, pal, trying to force the bracelet beads into Phil Brooks's mouth. Phil Brooks is rolling away in discomfort, pal. McIntyre, he's, having his hair pulled by security guards. I'm ready for it to be the third and the final, like, the brutal fight. I don't know. That's where I'm at, pal. What do you think?
I do think the strap match was a bit of a goofy stipulation and kind of an odd choice for these two guys. I saw some people on Twitter were like, oh, I hate you so much, I'm gonna go around and touch all four corners, pal. I get, okay, the first match you want to have a regular match. I get that. Punk hasn't been wrestling. He's coming off a big injury. Smart. You don't want to get him in there. You add Rollins in there to add an extra wrinkle, so it's just not like, oh, these two guys are in headlocks for 30 minutes, pal.
Yeah.
So that was cool. I think the second match would have, it was fine. It was a good match and all that. It was great. It was a good, solid 4-star match, whatever. But I do think that if you had a street fight, maybe falls count anywhere. Yeah, no holds bar. Like they could have done. They could have done something goofy like a street fight, like a Berlin street fight, pal. Pander to the crowd. 'Cause that's what CM Punk does now. Now that he's back, he hated The Rock for taking his part-time spot. He hated all those part-timers that would come back and be like, "Hey, I'm here finally." And now CM Punk comes out and is like, "Hey, what's going on, Denver? Come on, Denver!" And he could have been like, "Hey, come on, we're having a Berlin street fight. Come on." So, yeah, go ahead.
Honestly, and some people might hate this idea. I honestly think for that second match, instead of a strap match, I think an ambulance match would have been better. I think the storyline becomes, I'm going to put you in the hospital. F you.
That would have been good.
You're going to be hospitalized in a hospital bed in Berlin. I hate you. That could have been the build. And Drew McIntyre is just you have Drew making really snide remarks about the healthcare in Berlin. And Drew's talking about how, you're going to be treated by the incompetent bedside doctors in Berlin after I take you out in an ambulance. F you, Phil. I'm going to destroy you. I think that would have been fun. But yeah, like you're hinting at, the strap match, I get is wrestling. It's suspense, especially that ending sequence, last 2 minutes where Punk, he has McIntyre dead to rights. He hits the one GTS. He slowly wanders over to the first buckle, slaps it, turns around, walks over slowly to Drew. Punch, GTS. Slow. I was watching, I just hit the effing turnbuckles and beat him up some more. I didn't like the way, a strap match is weird. I'm not a fan of a strap match. I would have loved to see an ambulance match. Those matches for an ambulance match that I can think of, Cena versus Kane from 2012, that didn't work. That was weird. It would have worked better here. So that was my thoughts, but nonetheless, carry on.
Yeah, Kane versus Shane McMahon was a hell of an ambulance match. That was from back in the Ruthless Aggression era, but I digress. I see the discourse on social media is people are kind of tired of this, but a lot of those are like AEW people that hate CM Punk. I think overall, like the overall synopsis is that this match elevated the feud. I would say, and Punk, Punk's a big fan of like that Southern old school wrestling. So of course he's gonna have a strap match. He's done it before. He's a big strap match guy, pal. I thought it was like it's fine. I wouldn't say that I took away from this show Bash in Berlin, and I was like, oh my god, got to see what happens next with Punk and McIntyre. I just wanted to see what they would do, and I think the way they played it on the Raw after was fantastic. Like you got Punk coming out, or was that last Monday?
Oh, that was this past Monday.
Yeah, that was this past Monday. Yeah. So Punk comes out, he's like, washed my hands with McIntyre, bro. Done with him. Going after Gunther, bro. And McIntyre just beat the life out of him. I thought it was great. Yeah, the Hell in a Cell match they have at Bad Blood is going to be great. Bad Blood, the original Hell in a Cell match took place there, 97 on that pay-per-view. So, yeah, I'm excited. Yeah. And yeah, pal, let me ask you a question.
All right.
Just a transition here. Are you sold yet on AEW Grand Slam in Brisbane? Is it Brisbane? Brisbane? How do you say that?
Brisbane. It's more Brisbane than don't say Brisbane. Like that bothers every Australian when Americans say it like that.
So
Brisbane, yeah.
So are you sold yet on AEW Grand Slam in Brisbane in 2025? Will you be in attendance, pal? Will we get a live JTE vlog, pal? Of you sitting in the crowd in Brisbane?
Kevin, this will be the big thing in the next few months. I mean, it's more an AEW thing generally. Is their product compelling enough, or is it going to compel me, or something they're going to do week to week? Because now the fact that I might go, I'm watching Dynamite every week. I'm looking, am I into this enough to justify either driving whatever it is, 15 hours, or flying across the country to go and watch this show and be in attendance at Suncorp Stadium? At the moment, I'm not. To answer the question, I'm not sold yet. Tony Storm and Paul White, the Big Show pal, the giant formerly known as Paul White, flew across the world, pal. Tony Khan funded them to fly across the world to go stand in Suncorp Stadium and talk about how big this event's going to be. As that was on like the local news. And so I'm watching Paul White talk about this big stadium show. I'm like, Paul, you can't even walk. Like, I saw your last couple matches. You can't even move sideways. Nonetheless, this is going to be fascinating because I flew across to Perth, which is smack bang the other side of the country from where I'm at on the East Coast. I flew across Australia to go to Perth to experience, pal, the Elimination Chamber. Let me talk to you, Perth. I went to see that, and that was unbelievable. I need something. Like, AEW, I think, needs to announce a big match for this show in, like, November. Like, give Australians like me some time to, like, be sold and invest in this show. Like, as soon as Full Gear ends, they need to announce a match or two for this. Like, a blockbuster main event, like a Bryan versus... Like, who do you reckon...
Kenny Omega?
Yeah, a Bryan versus Omega, or a Bryan versus... Like, it's some sort of dream-like sort of match, and then they can build the whole card around that accordingly. If they're announcing, like, 3 weeks before, pal, MJF and Garcia, pal, or, Jericho and Orange Cassidy again, pal. I'm not going to Brisbane to watch this. So this is on you, Tony Khan, to give me a good show.
Oh man, yeah. I think it's interesting that you're like kind of cold on going. Like I would go. I would go just to go. I've been to a couple of AEW shows just to experience it. Just to see what it's like.
How far have you traveled to go to them though?
I went to Fight for the Fallen in 2019, so the second ever AEW show in Jacksonville. So Jacksonville's about a 5-hour drive for me. Got a hotel up there. I wanted to go. There was another one that I was close to going to. I think it was CM Punk's debut. I was trying to get tickets for All Out 2021. I couldn't get tickets. It was sold out back when AEW was riding hot, pal. Hard to believe. Like it was sold out. It was like ridiculously priced to get seats and hotels. So I didn't go, but I would have gone to Chicago for Punk's debut.
Nah, fair enough. But yeah, one thing I want to hype up. I will be going to this show, pal. I'm going to a local Australian indie show, November 2nd, pal. This is going to become a big podcast talking about. We're going to do a whole show of my live experience at the following. I'm going to go to the Slam Pro Wrestling League Rage in the Cage 2. That's November 2nd, pal. I'm going to be there. I got 4 tickets. I'm excited to go. I can't wait. I'm going to give you a review and talk about what like the Australian local indie scene is like. The marketing for this is like they built like this is the biggest event in the history of Australian indie wrestling. Is how they built this up. I think they say that about every show, but nonetheless, pal, I'm going to give an elite hate review for the global audience of what an Australian indie is like, what they did well, what was bad, what AEW, what WWE can learn, what these wrestlers do wrong. I'm going to be there and be like, look, there was no talent there, or look, this guy should be on Monday Night Raw. He was that good. I'm going to give a review of this. So it's going to be fun. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be a different sort of podcast perspective. It's not just WWE, AEW, pal, Shawn Michaels, NXT, Black and Black, pal. It's going to be a bit different. So, I can't wait, pal. That being said, I think the time has come, pal.
Hold on. All right, so just a question about this Slam Pro Wrestling League. We're going to see Terry Jean Balea and Ric Flair having their final tour, pal. The tour down under. Are they going to be on the show? But no, in all seriousness, speaking of Terry Jean Balea, a little bonus content for you guys. Unplanned segment, bonus content, pal.
God.
Our friend of Wrestling Uncovered, especially the friend of Wrestling Uncovered channel, Terry Jean Balea, Hulk Hogan, the Hulkster brother. He lent his personality. He lent his being. He made an appearance on everyone's favorite wrestler / podcaster / hydration producer, Logan Paul. He made an appearance on Logan Paul's podcast, ImPaulsive. A couple days ago, a week ago, whatever. And, we were talking about how Logan Paul is uncancelable. He's one of the top 3 most canceled people that have been attempted to be canceled. I genuinely thought he was going to get canceled for what Hulk Hogan said on Logan Paul's podcast. So I don't know how this came up. I'm not sure, but you've all probably seen the clip by now. Hulk Hogan's like, he's talking about his personal struggles, why wrestling fans don't like him and stuff, and the mistakes he's made. He goes, brother, I made some mistakes in my life. I've said some things, man. I've done some things, dude. But Chris Benoit did what he did, and everybody's forgiven him. All the wrestling fans have forgiven him. Why can't they forgive me? And Logan Paul was like, did he just say that? Like Logan Paul's like, hey, I'm about to get thrown off. Like, I'm about to lose my partnership with WWE because of this guy. Like, take it away.
You sent me that, and I watched it. I was like, wait, that's AI, right?
Yeah, it has to be fake.
Like, he didn't say that.
Yeah,
he did not say that. Like, he didn't compare a sex tape with a couple of racist comments and some other just generally dodgy personal life stuff to a double murder suicide of a child and a defenseless woman. He didn't compare that, right? Did he?
Yeah,
and
what is he trying to say? That he's not as bad as that guy, so we should love him? Like,
everyone's forgiven Benoit. What? No one's forgiven Benoit. No one's ever going to forgive Benoit. Are you like what? Huh? What do you mean, Terry? You tool bag. Like, yeah, I saw that. I watched it like 5 times.
Me too.
Yeah, it's one of those ones, like one of those reels, one of those TikToks or something, like the short form content. You watch it once and go, wait, huh? And you watch it again, and you're like, am I like? And then you think it's you. You think you're hearing something. You think like maybe I'm a bit tired today. Maybe it's been a long day. Maybe maybe I'm not paying attention. Maybe like I'm having attention like a moment of ADD, pal. I can't pay attention. And then you watch it 3 more times and you go, no, he just said that. He just said that. I don't know. Yeah, really, really strange. One of the more wild things you'll hear in wrestling all year, if we're being honest, and just sports entertainment generally, that's the sort of thing, something like that, obviously not that statement exactly, but something of that sort of, what the hell, huh? You'll probably get from the Vince McMahon Netflix documentary a few times. Wait, what? Really? Huh? Sorry, excuse me? Wait, what? Huh? That sort of thing. So, yeah, pretty crazy, pretty nuts. Yeah, wild.
Absolutely. Unbelievable. That's all I can say about that. All right, pal, go ahead. On to the next segment.
All right, pal. It's the final countdown. This is our main event segment
Yes.
of the Late Hate.
Yes.
This is honestly, and by this I mean the Bryan Danielson, everything encompassed it. The match against Swerve Strickland, all in main event in Wembley Stadium, the AEW World Title, the AEW main event scene. I was watching that, and I mean, I'll just give my opinion. You'll give yours. Commenters, listeners will give theirs. When I watched Bryan Danielson come out, and he's obviously hugging Brie Bella and his kids who are now like what, 5, 6, and one's like 3. Like they're probably like half grown up now. Like they're it's not just like, oh, there's like little baby Brie, whatever. I'm watching that, and then they do the Bryan does the big. He gets on the turnbuckles. He does the he right in the crowd sings along with his entrance, and like it was like a thunderous the final countdown. Everyone's like screaming. Then they do the match. It was a phenomenal main event, as you'd come to expect from Bryan Danielson, in this case Swerve. And I asked myself this question, pal. Like, AEW's had some very good moments in its history. Punk's, Punk coming back is like a big one, and there's been a lot of big moments. Bryan versus Omega at Arthur Ashe Stadium, I believe it was, and that show
Grand Slam,
2021.
Yeah, Grand Slam.
A lot of highlights there. Some of the stuff 2019, 2020. I mean, for me, the Punk and MJF storyline.
Yeah, the rise of MJF was the highlight.
Rise of MJF. Like, I've had some really good stuff. Even some of the stuff like some of the stuff Cody did, I quite liked at the time. When I watched that, I was like, is that and everything that goes into Bryan Danielson winning the world title, and he has the big moment with his loved ones, and there's like 50,000 screaming Brits are cheering for him. It's this incredible moment. Is that what AEW is all about? Like, if I had to tell you, like, if someone asked me what is All Elite Wrestling, I'll say that right there. That everything about that was the good of All Elite Wrestling. That's what AEW symbolizes. A guy who grew up and just loves wrestling, Bryan Danielson. He was working bingo halls for 10, 15 years, wrestling the great matches. He has awards named after him, how great a wrestler he is. He made it big in WWE. He had his big run. He had his big career. He's a WWE Hall of Famer. He's top 30 all time objectively in our lists. And now he's in AEW. He's the old hand. He's working against guys who people want to see him wrestle against. And he has the big moment. I'll ask you, pal. Like, 1, was that AEW's greatest moment in its history? 2, is that everything AEW symbolizes? And 3, your thoughts?
Is it AEW's greatest moment? I think Punk's debut is probably AEW's greatest moment. I think that is yet to be trumped. I mean, that's an accomplishment. Getting CM Punk back to wrestling, everything that came with that there's no topping that. Bryan winning here at All In is probably in that echelon, that top 3, top 4, top 5. I would say it's up there. I'm trying to think if there's anything. Maybe I'll put it at second. Maybe third. Yeah. So yeah, that's pretty much. Yeah, I would say that's like AEW in a nutshell. That big, like the big entrance, everything you talked about. Now, overall, my thoughts on it. I thought it was great. I was watching that. I was like, I gotta give Tony Khan and AEW a ton of credit. Tony Khan and AEW, from a creative standpoint, they tend to overcomplicate things. Like, instead of building up Jericho as his champion, having like a young guy beat him for the title. What they do, they gave it to Omega, right? No, they gave it to Moxley. They gave it to Moxley in kind of like a random fashion. It was like, oh, Moxley won. Then you're thinking, okay, we'll build up MJF, have him take the title from Moxley. Nope. Kenny Omega's going to beat Moxley and have a pretty decent title run. And it just seems like things get overcomplicated. And we got to have triple threat matches, 6-man matches, trios matches. There's not a big focus on just like simple, basic wrestling 101. Basic storytelling. And that's what this was with Bryan Danielson and Swerve. We saw fantastic promos. Honestly, I think All In might have been the best booked show in AEW's history. This year's All In. Best booked show. I enjoyed it. I didn't feel like I was like limping to the finish line. But sometimes, you watch an AEW pay-per-view and it's like, man, 5.5 hours. We're 5.5 hours like at the end. We're 4 hours and 45 minutes and the learning tree is coming on. And I'm like, bro, I'm done. Like, I can't take this no more. No, the show flowed well. Aside from like Mercedes and Britt and Jericho and Hook, the show flowed well. And the booking of that main event in particular, where you're telling this story with such a phenomenal build-up, great promos, just passionate babyface promo from Bryan Danielson, heel promos from Swerve. I'm gonna beat your ass, bro. I'm gonna retire you. You're a bum. You're hurt. Not on my level. I'm the now. Like good, all good stuff all across the board. If I lose, I'm retiring. And then we get to the match. Bryan wins. He's celebrating with his family. But what I loved about it was Hangman came out, caused the distraction, allowed Bryan Danielson to win. So now we got a storyline in Hangman and Swerve being renewed. Hangman never really got his comeuppance on Swerve. Swerve broke into his home, was watching him and his pregnant wife, Hangman take his pregnant wife to the hospital, torturing his kids, his baby, Swerve was just a menace, right? Hangman never got his comeuppance. So Hangman's like, they renew that storyline. Hangman cost Swerve the championship. And rightfully so, Hangman kind of had to go in the doghouse for all the Punk stuff. Like, he was the one that caused all that. Hangman had to go in the doghouse for a bit. They renew that storyline. Bryan Danielson finishes his story. And, like, now, all of a sudden, I'm watching All In. The end of All In, I'm like, I gotta watch Dynamite on Wednesday. I haven't said that. I haven't said that since, like, All Out 2022, when Punk got injured and we had Brawl Out. Like, that was the last time I was like, oh, I gotta watch next week's Dynamite. What are they gonna do? It's been 2 years. And now I was like, oh, I gotta watch. And then watch Dynamite. As I mentioned earlier, watch Dynamite with my girlfriend. See 55-year-old Jericho flabbing around, pal. But I'm like, I gotta stick it out. Gotta watch this Bryan Danielson segment. Get down. There's like 6 minutes left in the show. Get down to the wire. Bryan Danielson's music hits. 1,200 people are going crazy in the audience. It's the final countdown. Oh my God. Bryan Danielson's here, bro. And then what do we get, pal? Bryan Danielson's cutting a promo. He's like, I'm not retiring until I lose this belt. I'm going to be a fighting champion. Who's going to fight me next? And we get Jungle Jack Perry. Appears on the Titantron. And then he attacks Bryan Danielson. And I was like, the pendulum swung. I was like, oh, I'm so excited. Can't wait to watch Dynamite. Then I was like, oh, okay. Whatever. Jack Perry and Bryan Danielson. Okay.
Who would you rather have seen there instead of Jack Perry?
So, here, hold on.
Hold on.
Hold on. So, I'm not saying it's like the worst thing, but I'm just talking about like, from wanting to make me watch going forward. I get the premise. I get your argument. Oh, Jack Perry, he's a real heel. I want to see him get his ass beat.
I haven't even made an argument. I haven't said anything. I haven't even made an argument.
I know what you're gonna say. I know what you're gonna say. I know what you're gonna say. I already know. No, but yeah, who would I rather have seen in that spot? It's a great question. Who
wouldn't you have complained about? Really?
Probably anybody aside from Jack Perry, honestly. Like, I mean, okay, if in a perfect world, Okada. In a perfect world, I would rather see Okada. That would have been like,
or they can just do a rematch again.
That would have been, I think that would have been better. Have an epic stare down. Okada comes out. It's like, I'm gonna retire you, bro. You have this like cool, funny Okada. And they add something to it. Okada's like beating him up, and he's like making fun of him in Japanese. Whatever. Like, make it fun. But that's just a perfect world. Even Moxley would have been good, but Moxley's doing something else. Yeah, I don't know. Jack Perry comes out and I'm like I wanted to change the channel. I was like, I waited 2 hours for this, bro. Like, I waited 2 hours for the guy that calls himself the scapegoat The guy that literally got CM Punk fired. Like, this is what I'm waiting for. A forever mid-carder. This guy is main eventing All Out. This guy would be holding Gunther and Sami Zayn's bags if he was working for Nick Khan and for Nick Khan and Triple H. He'd be like Austin Theory, pal. He'd be on main event every single week. He'd be like your boy, what's his name? Grayson Waller. He'd be like Grayson Waller, pal. Not getting any TV time if he was in WWE, and he's main eventing All Out. I don't know. It just wasn't a great look. You know, I get it. He's a young guy and he's different. I get all that. I don't know. It just didn't hit for me. Orange Cassidy would have been a great choice too. People love Orange Cassidy. People love Orange Cassidy. He's one of the most popular wrestlers in AEW. I don't know why the people love him, but they love him. It's objective.
No, like not as like a world championship content like challenger to Danielson now, but yeah, I looked at this and I watched the same segment you watched, and I thought, yeah, F that guy. I want to see Bryan beat him up. And I guess that was the desired reaction from Tony Khan when he wrote that down on a piece of paper, when Bryan Danielson grabbed Tony's hand and wrote down the piece of paper for him. like happened to WrestleMania 37 with that main event. But that's not there. So when I'm watching Bryan Danielson, they're building up, the all-out main event. Yeah, Bryan, Jack Perry. I want to see Bryan beat up Jack Perry. I'm here for it. Because, I mean, with AEW, the structure of these shows is weird. Because you're all in, and then like 2 weeks later, it's all out. And like last year, it was 1 week apart. You know, this year it's a couple of weeks apart. The shows are too close together to do anything of that meaningful build. So if you're going to do Bryan versus Okada, or Bryan versus, I don't know, another like legendary figure who's some, dickhead asshole heel who's going to spend 6 weeks trying to bury Bryan and end his career and retire him and build it up. That's great. Jack Perry's the perfect opponent on 2 weeks build. On 2 weeks build to try and knock through him and all out. Jack Perry's the perfect opponent, pal. This clown, this tool bag, Jack Perry.
God. Everything you're saying is why Okada would be a perfect opponent. You don't want a 6-week build with Okada. Okada can't even speak English that well. What are they going to do for 6 weeks? Bryan Danielson's going to be like, bro, you suck. Get Rosetta Stone. Like, what? Like, it'd be perfect.
They could build for 6. They could do 6 weeks of compelling content.
Are
you kidding me?
It'd be perfect. It would be perfect. Okada comes out, beats him up. Okada comes out with Mercedes Moné. He's doing the Moné dance on Bryan Danielson's dead body. That's a viral moment, pal. That's a moment that you're gonna be. That's a moment that your friends are gonna be sending you that on Instagram. Your friends will be sending you that on Instagram.
Doing the Moné dance, pal. Are you kidding me?
Come on, you would not watch a 6-week build of Okada and Bryan Danielson. But nevertheless, pal. Let's talk about what happened on Dynamite 2 days ago. We'll close the show. An iconic segment. Hangman Page burned down Swerve's childhood house, burned it to the ground. This was honestly one of the best segments in AEW history. A top 3 AEW segment. I'll put it up there. It was unbelievable. It was great. The feud with Hangman and Swerve, feud of the year, pal. I'll give it to him. Swerve, top 5 wrestler of the year. Shoe him in, pal. These guys, I don't know. I mean, the last time they wrestled, they were drinking each other's blood. I don't know what they're gonna do now. Like, what are they gonna do? They're gonna set each other on fire now and just burn to ashes, like in front of everybody. Like,
match. Yeah.
Yeah. They're doing a steel cage, like lights out steel cage match or something. That's going to headline the show over Bryan Danielson and Jack Perry, because Jack Perry can't headline a pay-per-view. You can't put Jack Perry on the front of a poster staring at Bryan Danielson. So you got to have Hangman and Swerve headline that. Your boy, what do you have to say? Defend your boy Tony Khan. Defend him, bro.
Defend my boy Tony Khan. Would you stop that?
Defend him.
Put your glasses back on. What are you talking about? Defend your boy. Defend your boy Jack Perry. Defend your boy Tony Khan.
Defend them.
This is ridiculous. I'm saying on a 1.5 week run up to a match against Jack Perry. Would you want to see a 6-week build with Jack Perry?
No.
Is that what you want?
No, I don't want to see. I don't want to see anything.
A 4-month build with Jack Perry.
I don't want to see anything with Jack Perry. I want to see Jack Perry I want to see him at Slam Pro Wrestling, Rage in the Cage 2, in Brisbane, Australia. That's where I want to see Jack Perry, pal.
Pal, could Jack Perry carry Val Venus's bags?
Yes, he could. He's qualified for that. Yeah, absolutely, pal.
It's not here nor there. Swerve and Hangman are feuding again. My initial response because obviously they do that the drinking blood death match, which was filmy and my memory's wishy-washy. Yes, we'll get to around the world.
Full
I had a
Gear,
big
I
last
think.
year.
Full
What?
Gear.
Huh?
I think it was Full Gear last year.
Yeah. So that's November last year. It's now basically end of August, start of September. So that's what, 9 months removed. Now it's rehashed, and it did make sense what they did at All In, as you say. Yeah, Hangman Page cost Swerve. Bryan, it led to the Bryan Mone. The Bryan Mone was the Bryan Mone, but really with Swerve and Hangman. Now they're at it again. My initial reaction was feuding again. I get the argument. Yeah, well, it was unfinished business here, and Hangman trying to get his come on. I get the why. So it's not oh, Jimmy, here's why it's happening. I know why it's happening. My initial thing was I've seen them drinking each other's blood, stabbing each other, doing a death match, glass, putting glass in each other's backs and eyes, drinking blood. It's going to be good. It's going to be great. I love that segment. I, on face value, love the segment of Hangman burning down Swerve's house and he's paid off and it's his childhood home and he's bought it and he's hugging people and he's so happy. And then an hour and a half later on Dynamite, Hangman's burning it down. I love that in isolation. But I'm like, I've seen them have this end-all, be-all, death match to end-all death matches. I don't feel compelled to watch them have another match. That's my stance. I love what they did on Dynamite. Objectively, that's a great wrestling segment. We need more of that sort of stuff in AEW. That storytelling, that drama, that get you to want to watch them, like the big match. But we've seen them do a death match. So what now is what I ask. That's all.
Yeah, that's it. What now? What after this match? I mean, they're gonna raise the stakes, pal. So yeah, to recap. Tony Khan booked a phenomenal All In.
Sorry, how do you defend your boy Tony Khan? Why is this happening again? They've already done deathmatch 9 months ago with blood drinking. They were drinking each other's blood, getting banned from networks. Sponsors were being turned away, watching blood being drunk. Defend your boy.
He's your boy. You're the one defending him. You're the one defending him and Jack Perry, pal.
You're the one defending Tony Khan. Oi!
All right, so they're gonna raise the stakes. To summarize, Tony Khan booked a really good All In. Storybook ending. He didn't overthink things for once. Gave us just a simple Bryan Danielson beat Swerve. We don't need triple threat matches. We don't need, F finishes, screwy finishes, dusty finishes.
We
don't need any of that. It's just straight up Bryan Danielson beat Swerve. Great. Here's go home happy, fans. 46,000 fans, and God knows however many Tony Khan paid for to be in there. So now with that being said, pal. Shall we go around the world?
Yes, we shall, pal. Let me get the globe. I've got crap all over this desk. All right. Pal, are you ready? 3, 2, 1. Around the world, around the world, around the world. All right, pal. We are going to the land down under today.
Oh, yes. I love it. Where are we going, pal? We're going to Brisbane?
We are going to
Brisbane, pal.
No, we're not, pal. I might be going in February for Grand Slam.
Perth, pal?
That is South Africa. We're not going there.
Well, a lot of Australians did.
We're going to Canberra, Australia, pal.
Canberra.
The home of JTE.
Yes.
So you may have noticed, you may or may not, our devoted subscribers and our listeners would have noticed, especially the last few weeks, really last few months, our content hasn't been as consistent as it was in 2023. And most of that comes down to me. First and foremost, Kevin is particularly the driving force behind a lot of what we do from a production point of view, from producing the show, editing the clips, posting clips. I help with some titling and some stuff here and there, but really Kevin's the driving force behind that. This past year, and look, I in my own personal life, not make fun of people, but people say, I'm too busy to do X, or I don't have the time, or whatever. I get it, those people. I'm like, what do you mean you don't have time? My last year, personally, and this is why, on my end, I've been dropping the ball on Elite Heat, and which is why now, going forward, especially for the remainder of 2024 particularly, but hitting into next year, I'll be far more on the ball with things. Kevin, you weren't wrong when a year ago, I think it was about a year ago, you said on or in around the world, relationships are a part-time job. Is what you said word for word.
Yes.
With regards to your situation at the time, what was ongoing, you mentioned your thing was like an 8-year thing, I think you said.
Yeah.
Something similar, which is unbelievable to me. Mine was 5 months, right? 5 months felt like 2 years. Okay. And I won't go into detail because obviously, with utmost respect and all this sort of thing, I'm not using around the world to be nasty or make comments. That's not what this is about. But like between doing that, which right away it's a part-time commitment in itself. So I work full time. I have my government job, pal. Government job, pal. You do that. This is part-time. Well, like the relationship itself, part-time. And then you throw in what I do personally, pal. I'm a community ambassador, pal. But yeah, I basically run a local sports club, essentially.
Right.
So I've mentioned the podcast in passing. Australian rules football is my code, my thing, what I like to do. I do quite a bit. I won't bore people with specifics because it's not the sexiest listening. All the specifics of like the admin, the emails, the organization, the relationship building, all the stuff that goes in that sort of thing. The meetings you do, board meetings for a club, whatever. It's not sexy. It's not glamorous. It's very time consuming. And we were rewarded with the club of the year. This is in my local region, the club of the year for just generally the past year, which was a nice accolade, nice achievement. It's good. But really, to put a sort of a bow on this discussion point around the world, relationships are something. You need to be committed and more committed with these sort of things. Because really, with me and what the situation was, personally, as I say, I have only so much time between my work, my sport, all these different million things. Everyone has a life balance. You have a million different things going on. For me, you wake up at, let's say, 5:50 a.m. You get ready. You're out the door 6:30 a.m. to go to work. You do your full work day. You're done work, let's say 3:20. Then either you have like an hour or two of an AFL, like a sports training, just like, social. You're at your sports club for 2 hours. And then I say have to. You feel like you have to spend the next 2, 3, 4, 5 hours doing something relationship, FaceTime, seeing the person, a date night, an event that's on. And so really you wake up for 5:50 and then you get home at 10 o'clock. You've been flat out all day. And then you're like, and then you go to bed and do the next day. Right. And that was me from about January through until really June. Was like the crux of that, and mix in like the Perth trip to go watch wrestling, pal, go watch WWE, and you mix in all this other stuff because with the football season over here, your season is April to about August is like when games are played. But from what I do, a lot of the stuff is like November through January through April is really like getting everything ready, organization, appointing coaches, pal, relationship building, managing registration, all this sort of business. And it's just constant. So really with this podcast especially, I'd be like, okay, Kevin can record at 3 a.m. or 4 a.m. my time. Okay, I've got a date night. I have to be at the partner's house from when I finish work about 4 to probably about 8 p.m. If that, I get home. I've got to do some admin for about an hour. I've collapsed in bed about 9:30, 10. I've got to be up at 3, 4 a.m. So that's really what the podcast became for many months, which like I'm happy on my end. I kept consistent to some capacity to where the show just didn't fall off a cliff and we didn't just abandon or late hate and we just go back to our 2022 phase where like we abandoned the show. Then every like 6 weeks we do a podcast, wrestling bad, we burnt out, wrestling bad. So I'm happy we kept consistent content. We covered WrestleMania really well.
Yeah, we did.
We've done some quite good content. Our late takes been consistent. We've done some really good stuff this year. I'm really proud of what we've done so far. It's going to go up about tenfold in the next 4 months. My schedule is cleared. There is no more relationship. That's been done for 2 months. My duties as like a president of a football club is like died away now. The season's over. And it's like it's a real off season for 2 or 3 months, especially. So that's good. And just generally I have more time to just devote to watching wrestling, having opinions, this show, being on the ball, getting a Twitter going, getting the layout going, ideas, like the whole works, because a lot goes into this to do it well. And that's the thing with, Ken, you do media, listeners, you probably watch and listen to many different podcasts, shows, talk shows, whatever. A lot goes into making a good one. You can half-ass it and be okay. But really, to be any good, you need to devote and actually have this be like one of your main key commitments. And for me, for Jimmy the Elitist, pal, especially the first 6 months of my year, but really even July and August, because that was so busy with football as well. Oh my God. And so, when we text this, as I say, yep, I can do, 1 p.m. your time, pal, or 2 p.m. your time, which in reality for me is 3 a.m., 4 a.m., and then we have a mix-up. I wake up at 3:50 a.m., but you thought I meant 3 a.m., but my time, as opposed to 4 a.m., and then it's like, it's -5 degrees. It's freezing where I live in Canberra in winter. I'm like, look, it's -4. We've stuffed the time up. It's 4 a.m. on Tuesday morning. Let's just do this tomorrow. So yeah. Do with that what you will. That's just my sort of where Jimmy's been at, pal. I'm now committed to being back. I've got the capacity to do it, which is a relief. It's going to be good for the show because, for a number of months there, listeners, make no bones about it, Kevin was driving this show and doing 85-90% of the stuff behind the scenes. We've had our balance over the years. There were times where we'd be fully 50-50, times that I've got more time to spare. I'm doing a bit more. You're recording a show on your end and posting it, whatever. Last couple of months, it's been 80-90% you, and I've been letting the side down. But now we're getting back at it around the world. The podcast itself, had about 2-hour recording here. I'm brainstorming. I'm watching wrestling more now, more capacity. You'll have to say it. I don't know what you're supposed to make of that, pal, but do that what you will.
Yeah, I don't know what to say to that. So you're telling us that you chose doing the Elite Heat podcast over having a girlfriend. I like that. Excellent.
No, that relationship was never going to work out anyway in the long run. That's all I'll say. But as a result of that not being a thing anymore, this takes priority now.
5 months, 5 months, and you were burnt out already, man.
I won't say anything. Move on. Let's carry on.
Yeah. Being in a relationship is it's exhausting. Yeah.
When it's going well, and those listeners who have been involved in long-term ones, when it's going well, it's great, right? And it's you've got your dates here, you're doing this, or like, the couple's going together, whatever. It can be great. But then when it's not,
Yeah. It's I have to be quiet because I live with mine, so I can't say anything. I can't say anything either. So moving on.
I don't know. Nonetheless, pal. Look, chaotic year. It's now September, so at the moment it's September 7th. So 2/3 of the year is over. On my end, this year's been a very successful blur. So much has happened. Every day has been constant, just about. Which I like it that way. I can't live not a boring life, but a life where like you spend like a few hours just you have nothing to do. You're just sitting around on your phone. What do I do? When's something happening? I can't live that way. I have to be doing things. So in that regard, I'm sort of hypocritical. It's like it's busy, but then I don't want to be busy, but I want to be. I'm one of those sort of people. But there's about a month there I couldn't even fit in a gym session in about June. I couldn't go to the gym because I didn't have time. Which I was just like, what has happened? Like, what has gone? How have I got to this point? Like, and then like we were keeping up the podcast. So you look back to like June or whatever, and we were still doing shows. I'd jump on, we'd do our recording on my end at like 5 a.m. on a Monday morning, and then I'd end the recording at 6:30, shower and change, rush off to work to be at work by 7:15. That's sort of what we were doing for about a month or two there in the middle. But just so you guys as listeners and as Kevin has context on what the last year's been like. So, we're now good to go in the box seat, ready to yell about scripted wrestling, yell about Chris Jericho. We're back, pal.
Yeah,
we're
chaotic.
Back.
All right, so this has been a hell of a recording. I think we hit, let's see where we're at. We're at 1 hour and 39 minutes. So, this is a long one. But, nevertheless, we had a lot of content to cover. This was great. It's great to be back. Great to have a recommitted JTE. Remember all the listeners, he chose this podcast over having a relationship. Left his partner so he can do this podcast. So that's how committed Jimmy is. That was he sat her down. He said, you know what? I have a podcast to do. Sorry. This is not gonna work. Got to do a podcast.
I basically said, this to go off the script here. I do boom, 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 and that takes up all my time. You do this doesn't work. And yeah, that was basically the yeah. So in a way, yes, you're bang on, effectively. Yeah.
All right. So we'll talk to you guys in the next one. Peace.